And then the next day, we still had to get on foot. And then we made it from Pakistan to Uzbekistan. And our last destination was to get from Uzbekistan to Russia on a train ride. And the train ride is about 8 hours. So the way it is, like the USSR beds, when you get into a train, is like the bed bunks. It's like you could fold it up. Once you fold it
Oh
up, you could
yeah,
put your
yeah.
big luggages, and then you fold the seat back on and you sit on it. So we had to hide inside the bunk beds for 8 or 9 hours, and then people would open it and feed us food. And then we made our way to Russia, and then at that time we had no money, so we were living with my aunts, uncles, and grandparents. So we're 16 people in one bedroom.
You are now tuning in to the Relentless Project. Real people, real stories, real life.
All right, so we're going, brother. I appreciate you for coming on to the Relentless Project. I know people in the Pittsburgh area definitely know who you are because you come highly recommended. But for the listeners and viewers who may not know you, welcome, Ferdaws, Bobby Murda, Nayimi.
Mm-hmm.
Hope I said that right.
Mm-hmm.
Undefeated pro fighter as of now. Knock on wood. I don't want to jinx you. I don't know. But very active for some time and undefeated. How was your amateur career? Also undefeated, if I'm
Yeah.
not mistaken,
Yeah.
right? He's like, yeah, no big deal. It is what it is. But I was reading through your bio that you sent over, and I have to be honest, I had to stop. I read it a few times. From walking out of Afghanistan at 3 years old to now being an undefeated pro fighter, you've lived a lot of life in the 20-something years you've been on this. Or how old are you?
I'm
You
29
don't mind
now.
me asking?
29 now.
Okay, 29 years old. A lot of life in 29 at 29 years. And I got to ask you, I guess the first question is going to be, does it feel real to you yet? Like when you stop around and stop and think about where you're at today, do you ever feel like, how did I get here? Do you ever ask yourself that?
Yeah. At times I think about it, and statistically, and where I am now, and how I'm living life. Sometimes I tell myself that when I was born in 1996 in Afghanistan, I was a one percenter that wasn't supposed to be here and made it here. Like by odds, statistically, when I was born, I wasn't supposed to be here. Like I wasn't meant to be here. So I'm like that one percenter out of the
Yeah.
36 million or 40 million population of Afghanistan that made it out here. And that just pays more tribute, my gratitude and respect to my father and to my mother for sacrificing their life, freedom, and making the decision to flee the country when it was not doing well for us, and to risk their life to come give me the uh, best life that they could. And it's not just for me, but it's for my generation, for my kids, for my kids. It goes a long way. So I'm the first generation,
Yeah.
but at sometimes I use that phrase and mentality to motivate myself to understand that like I wasn't meant to be here. So the fact that I'm here now, like it's takeover.
I was just going to ask you that, having that in mind, like you're not supposed to be here. Right. And
Yeah.
I say that because statistically, right, if we're looking at numbers, your family did that for a chance, right? Not even for, hey, if we get through this, 100% chance that my child's going to have a great life. They do this with a chance that, hey, maybe, or maybe he has an average life, or maybe he has a not so good life, but it's better than here. Having that in mind, you can't lose. Like if you keep that as motivation and that drive, like, how can you lose when you've already won
Yeah.
so much?
Yeah. I think it's you always said it very well. I have the same mentality leading up to fights, or just going through adversity in life. And something that made me click into what you're saying is listen to the Mike Tyson podcast. I forgot if it was with Francis Ngannou or somebody else, where he said life is all about losing, and there's a beauty in losing. And if there was no such a thing as losing, then it wouldn't be such a thing called as life, right? And it says when we grow, we lose our hair, we lose our teeth, we lose our parents, and there's a beauty in losing because that's all life is. The moment you're born, you're every day is counted towards your death. The moment you're born, like, you know what I mean. The only thing
Yeah.
that's guaranteed is death. So losing is
Yeah.
is part of life. So if without no losing, there wouldn't be nothing. And life is like an infinite game. The key to infinite games
Yeah.
is to keep
Without
playing.
losing, without losing, you can't really appreciate the wins when they come.
Hmm.
And that's a good way to frame life. Like it's a game of losses, and you're just trying to beat the odds every chance
Yeah,
you get.
yeah,
A lot of guys say they fight because they love it or they fight, for the money. When I look at your story, it feels like you've been fighting for survival. I mean, you did fight for survival since the day you were born. And that kind of leads me into I like people to kind of get an understanding of who are we listening to and why, right? And I think you have a hell of a story that can motivate a lot of people because it's very unique, but unfortunately, it's not unique because there's people um, who try to escape their situations a lot and they aren't as fortunate as you've been. So I think your story is going to resonate because there are people who maybe lost their job or have a hard life. And when they listen to someone like you, I know just reading your story, I'm like, how, I was sore because I did a turkey bowl. And I was reading your stories. I'm coming up with the theme and I'm like, why am I complaining? I got to do a turkey bowl. I got to hang out with my friends. I got to play flag football and I'm sore. I get to be sore. When I'm comparing my story to your story, I'm like, these are privileges I get to do, and I'm sitting here complaining. There's people who can't. So it helped me kind of get myself out of the little funk. So I'm hoping that people, in listening to this episode, it helps a lot of people kind of dial in what they're doing in life and hopefully pushes them to be better. So take me back to 1996. You're 3 years old. Your parents make the decision to leave Afghanistan on foot.
yeah. My father from my grandfather from my dad's side, back in the days, he was very common to marry multiple wives, have multiple wives. So he had four wives. My grandfather and my dad's mom was the second or the third one. And when they grew up, he had an army of sons and daughters. And then when you have the fortune of having that many kids and daughters, then you start getting making them a part of whatever you're doing. So my grandfather was into Persian rugs. So this whole family, kids and sons, they would all get into make Persian rugs. And eventually that elevated to the point where they started doing very well in the market. And then became a successful business, and then every son came to have a share in the company, had like a house, like a bunch of goats, cows, animals, land, and things like that. And then I was born in 1996 in Herat. It's like the west side of the province of Afghanistan, and it's neighbors with Iran. And 1996, I was born. I was 3 years old in 1999. That's when the Taliban and the Mujahideen took over. It was a civil war between Afghanistan. And then my dad met someone in the bazaar, or you could say black market, that he could give him a way, found a way to get him to Russia illegally. And the reason why Russia was a destination is because my mom's parents, my grandfather, my grandma, and my uncles, they already found a way to, and they got away. Like they got to Russia. So we had a family members, some sort of somebody there, at least if we got there. So when my dad just gambled, he was 20 some, like he was in mid 20s. He just like sold his property, sold his land and few things, and then gambled to get me, my mom. And at that time I had my baby sister. She was 1 years old. And we just basically went on foot to Iran. And then once we got to Iran, we stayed there for a few nights, for 2 nights, and then we got on foot to go illegally pass through like forest, like got in a car with like other 9 people. It was like 9 people in a little four-door car. You would like get through the borders from Iran to like Tajikistan, and then once we get to Tajikistan, we had to walk through a forest. I don't remember much, but I remember my mom saying when we got from Tajikistan to, I believe, Pakistan is they got to this little abandoned house, and then they made food. The guy that was the tour guide, and then when he made food, my mom said everyone was so hungry that he made some sort of a soup, so we ate it. And then afterwards, the tour guide came in and said, "How was the food? Like, was it delicious?" And my mom's like, "Oh my god, I was so hungry." And then he's like, "Oh, that's funny enough. Yeah, that was horse meat. I don't know if you guys eat that." And my mom just started yakking. And she's like, that's a survival point. You don't know where you're getting served. But then to some people, like in Kazakhstan, Uzbekistan, they eat horse meat. I've never, but I've heard people eat. So my mom started yakking and not feeling bad. And then the next day, we still had to get on foot. And then we made it from Pakistan to Uzbekistan. And our last destination was to get from Uzbekistan to Russia on a train ride. And the train ride is about 8 hours. So the way it is, like the USSR beds, when you get into a train, is like the bed bunks. It's like you could fold it up. Once you fold it
Oh
up, you
yeah,
could put your
yeah.
big luggages, and then you fold the seat back on and you sit on it. And then on the top, it folds up the top beds. It's just a hard bed. So we had to hide inside the bunk beds for 8 or 9 hours, and then people would open it and feed us food, and then they would sit on top of us because every 2 3 hours there would be checkpoints, and then the police would get in there and start looking for immigrants because it's very common. And then we just stayed underneath the bunk beds and inside the metal frame, and then we made our way to Russia. And then we grew up. We met my mom's family, and then at that time we had no money, so we were living with my aunts, uncles, and grandparents. So we're 16 people in one bedroom. Everyone was just like scattered on the floor, blankets shared, pillows. And then the way we made a living was we would go to a bazaar, my uncles and my dad, and then there would be store owners. So we would sell food to them, pre-made food, like we'd make Afghan food, rice, kebab, or whatever you wanted. So they would get a pre-order of like 150 orders from the store owners, and then they would come back home, and then the woman would cook from like 9 10 p.m. to like 3 4 a.m. They would pre-package it, and then they'd go to sleep, and the man would take the food and drive 2 3 hours to the bazaar, and then sell the food and then make orders and sell the food. And then it took us a year or two to finally get up on our feet and everybody make money. And then my dad started having a little shop in bazaar. He would sell like wallets, like just seasonal stuff. And then eventually saved up money enough where he bought his own little container bazaar. And then we were in Russia from 1999 until 2004. And then we're being denied to be citizens because the Afghanistan and Russia was very fresh around then. So then we migrated to Belarus, Minsk, and we got into the train. This time we kind of blended in because we had a little money. We weren't that poor, so we were wearing decent clothes. So we kind of got on a train and again illegally made it to Belarus. And then Belarus was a little bit quiet, less populated, and that's where I started going to school. I went in grade 1 to grade 5, and I started to get into martial arts in 2006. And just went to school there, lived. There was a lot of racism, I used to get called the N word because I was just a little light skinned. Everybody else was like pale. So they would like pick on me for no reason. Uh, there was the racism. It was a little bit of communism, hardship. I would take my siblings. I was like around 8 or 9. I would take my brother, a sister that was 6, and my younger brother that was 5, and I would hold hands. I would commute 2 hours to school and 2 hours back, and then I would also go on the weekends to help my dad at the bazaar, sell groceries, food. So, and then I got into Muay Thai in 2006, a gym right by my house, and that became my escape route. I had a lot of things going on outside, school, home. I had demons to battle as a young kid. It was because, dude, I've been through a lot of
I
shit.
can't even imagine.
Yeah.
I can't even like. I could sit here and talk all day about just that story alone. Like, is there anything you mentioned the train ride and getting into Russia? Is there any flashes of memory
Yeah, I remember
that you
losing my
have?
sister on a train ride where I exited the wrong train station, and I think she fell asleep and the train took her. And I remember the train door closed. And then, dude, I was the big brother. Like at 9 years old, I was carrying the family. Like I was the one when my mom sent me the groceries to the bazaar, I would carry 10 bags of onions, potatoes, and ish. I was walking probably
So you
like,
started the one trip.
bro, it was crazy.
You ever heard of
Dude,
that?
I don't never heard of that, but dude, it was tough.
That's when like people stuff their like get all the bags from the car to their house, and they say one trip, like they won't go back to their
Yeah,
car.
it was
That's like
literally
this
one
thing. It's like,
shot.
oh,
And I remember like the door closed and I cried. I cried in the train station. And I don't know
how
what
did
to
you end up
do.
getting back in contact with her?
So I just, the smart brain of me thought, okay, I'm just going to sit where I was because she kind of had an idea where it was. Maybe she could sit on the opposite train and then go back to the same station because it was a station where we would transit to another train up top. So, and then I just stood there and then I cried. I mean, I think after like 25, 30 minutes, she finally noticed and then we met each other. By the end of the day, I trained myself and I trained my siblings. We always like had a plan B to say, okay, like you all know the routes. If we get lost or something happens, you all know how to get home. Like I taught you how to get home. So I remember sometimes I
At
would
the age
lose
of
them.
9.
I remember sometimes I would lose them and I would cry and pray thinking that they would get home because they would know how to get home. And I would just go home like praying, standing by the door thinking, okay, I'm thinking they're going to be home. And some days they will be home or some days I would beat them to the door and I'll get spanked like, by the belt because I was the oldest brother. There was a lot of pressure. I remember one time in 2003 when we were just about to get off the not plane, the bus ride to go into station. There was a bombing happening, and then we couldn't go to school. That was one it, and then another innocent where I got in a little fight with a kid in the class. Uh, it was just boys fighting boys, just whatever. And then the next day, my teacher set me up, told me to step out of the room for no reason, just randomly. So I was like, okay, I stepped out of the room. And as soon as the door closed, there was a buddy's father with a pit bull standing there. And he looked at me and said, listen, he said the black N word, whatever. He's like, next time you touch my son, I'm going to leave you boneless. He's like, don't ever put my hands ever on my son. And then at that time, I was like 9, 10. I didn't want to tell my parents because I knew like we're a minority. Like, what can we do against these people? So I just
Yeah,
kept it
that's a
shush
tough spot,
hush,
man.
and I just had dealt with a lot of anxiety growing up as a kid. Like anytime I seen police, I always get scared. Even getting to America to Russia, like I still had a little bit of anxiety. And anytime I drive, a cop pulls over to me, I just get weird anxiety because as a kid, that was like a threat, not because I did any criminal activities, because we're immigrants and we don't have documents. So they would always pick on
Yeah, I mean,
us.
I can't even imagine. And like, losing your siblings, you can't go to someone and say, "Hey, I need help. Can you help me find my sister?" Right? Because then that raises a lot of red flags. Like,
Yeah,
oh,
because we were
who are
undocumented.
you?
Yeah,
Where are your parents?
we were undocumented,
So,
so it was tough.
man, that is tough. There's so much to like. How do you think that all shaped the person you are today, man? Because when I don't even ask about you, but when people bring you up, because I train at Stout, I've cross trained Matt Factory, bro. Everyone loves you. You're amazing guy, very humble, straight killer in the cage, which I see where that motivation comes from. Bobby Murda. We'll get into that, but you know, there's two ways you can go, and I always say this because I grew up humble beginnings, nowhere near the situations you've been in, but single mom, working multiple jobs. We grew up, quote unquote, the ghetto, trying to make ends meet. And like as an adult, I hear stories like you, and I'm like, man, I had it great. I can't complain. So there's this like, what's the word I'm looking for? Perception, right? We all have our own perceptions of things. But but my older brother, we grew up in the same environment, same situations. Unfortunately, he in and out of prison. He made his decisions. So it makes you wonder, like, you can have a situation and you can go one way, or you can go the other way. What kind of pushed you to use this as fuel to keep pushing forward and not as something that holds you back?
The thing, it's all this experience that I've had, all these dark moments, the trials, tribulation, the adversity. That when I came to North America, I've noticed that like the freedom, the land of opportunities, the things we take for granted, and I just seen the society, the system, the environment be a little bit loose, chill, and that's when all of those experiences came into play. Uh, so I use it as a fuel because I live by this motto that says always grateful but never satisfied. So I look at myself and through all those experiences to see like how bad I was and how good I have it and how much more I could going like seeing my limitless potential. Because when where I came from, where I was always capped, told that you can't do this, you can only do this. You're this color. You're not better than us, or things like that. So I always was capped and told that like I couldn't do things, and that affected me a lot. But coming to Canada, it made me really appreciate that, like all the opportunities, the freedom, the freedom to chase my dreams. Because if I was in Russia or in Canada, I wouldn't have the freedom to pursue fighting full time. I wouldn't have the freedom to have sponsors, people supporting me, opportunities to fight on, UFC Fight Pass, Unified, LFA, 247. I wouldn't have opportunities to meet Isaac Grilly. I don't even have the opportunities to be at the Math Factory training, learning wrestling, and it's just the land of opportunities and the freedom, And where I lived in Russia was a lot of like people take freedom for granted in North America. The fact that you could go out there, work in Walmart, make someone's dream come true and just be okay. Or you could go out there in America, get a loan from the bank, or you even have to get a loan or start your own business, and you can make your own dreams come true. Where I grew, and there are a lot of circumstances that didn't allow you to do that. You're a minority, you're immigrant, you didn't have the privileges that you could as another human could have, and the opportunities, the freedom, I think, and I think the environment, the people, the you guys call it an American dream, so it's kind of like you have the opportunity to go for it. Whereas in everywhere else, you don't really have that freedom, the chance to shoot your shot.
Yeah, and I say this frequently to people. I'm like, people who are down and out. I'm like, go get a job. But then we're very entitled people. I feel like as a community, we become so entitled in the sense of. I was talking to someone the other day who lost their job and they're complaining about not having money. I'm like, dude, they're Home Depot, Lowe's, Walmart, they're all hiring. I can't work in those places. Why? Why? If you're complaining about not having money, they're all hiring. It's a stepping stone, right? And this guy actually told me, he's like, dude, I was in this industry. Like to work there is almost a disrespect.
Yeah, no.
And I just looked at him like, bro, I don't know what you want me to tell you, because if I was down and out, I'd take any job I could, and then try to grow, and then go from there. But I was in that place too in my younger. Like I'm like, man, I had a college degree. Why would I work for this place? Who the fuck do I think I am
No,
at
you're
that
right. I
point?
remember when
Now that
first got to Canada as a kid. I was 13 years old. We need money. I was the oldest in the family, and my first job in Canada was selling chocolates outside, and selling chocolates for the charity, but also just making a living. And I didn't take no shame into that because like I seen my old man, work in a bazaar and be looked down upon on people as like this, as like just like this immigrantish person that's just selling some stuff. I seen I've been through worse, like, and I'm grateful, whatever job it is now that I see a servant, someone below me or above me, I always treat people with the same respect that I would treat everyone else because you never know what that person is going through or what they've been through, or even someone successful, like someone might see them and be like, oh, it must be nice, right? But you never know what that person has been through to be in a
yeah,
situation. So you're definitely right with that.
Jesse Beckwith, I had him on, and he mentioned something that changed my perspective a lot. He said, "You're only a couple decisions away from that person on the street begging for food."
Hmm.
And I'm like, that is so true. Like, if I was given your situation and made the choices you made, I'd be where you are. And if you were given my situation and made the choices you'd be where I'm at. That being said, we're not different. We just make different decisions.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like that person on the street could very much be you one day. So who are you to sit there and feel all high and mighty? And that's something my mother instilled in me is you will treat the janitor with the same respect you'll treat the CEO. And that's something I'm not above anybody, below anybody. And talking with you, I feel like you embody that as well. And, my situation, not as dire as yours, but I see it as a privilege, man. I see it as a privilege because watching my mother work 3 jobs, I don't get to be like, oh, I'm only going to work one job. If I work two, I'm too busy. Why? Like she did it, I can do it, and watching your old man work at the bazaar and sell food, is that something that kind of no pun intended, but fuels the hunger that you have? Because just when I've seen your other podcast episodes that you've done and just hearing how you interact with people, there's something inside of you that just needs fed. Like what is that?
I just uh, I just want to give back to my parents, man. It's like how you said, how you seen your mom do 3 jobs, and uh, help out and just make sure you guys are fed, well taken care of. And I think my parents are like my superhero, bro. Like I owe
Yeah.
them everything, bro. Like I owe them a piece of me, and I feel like I need to take care of them. I want to retire my dad. I want to retire my parents, like my mom, my dad. I want to, get in my house and put them in a position and give their flowers. And I always say this before I leave this world, I want to leave such a bad dent somewhere around this world. So people, my last name will live on forever, not for the materialistic possession, not for the fame, money, but just my last name. Cause like I want to give back and make them proud of me to show that, hey, like all these sacrifice, all these obstacles, all these adversities that you guys been through, it's never been unforgotten. And and it goes back to what you said. Like I was the 1% that made it here, bro. So like I wasn't supposed to be here. So I gotta make sure pass it on to them, because what my old man did is he basically tried to help the generation by fleeing back home and putting me in a bad situation. So now I feel like the torch is passed on to me from my old man to be like, hey, Bobby, like this is a torch of not just you and for us, for our family, but this is a whole generation. I'm the first generation. So Ish, if I like, excuse my language, fuck up, like it's not just me fucking up, it's me, my kids, because the last thing I want to do is have my kids and my whole generation go through what I've been through. I'm tired of that. Like I don't want them to go through it. I want my kids and my grandkids or whatever to be able to have a peaceful life, live, graduate high school, and go chase whatever they want, whether they want to become architect, a musician, I don't know, real estate realtor or president or whatever it is, man. I want to be able to
Yeah.
support them and give them the best life that I could give, because that's what my parents did. And I feel like the torch is passed on to me now to continue live long this generation and put us in a better place. So I feel like now that torch is passed on to me, and I just have so much energy, fuel, and motivation to continue taking this duty that my old man gave me to pass on to the next generation.
Yeah, I mean, you've had to restart a lot, from leaving
Hmm.
home to Russia, to being denied there, to Belarus, to you've moved around a lot. You've had to restart, and then, but you're here now, right? You found
Hmm.
MMA. What was that motivation to start something like MMA when you've watched your own man in different capacities in sales? You're in this space where now you can kind of push for more things, but you found a gym. And it wasn't just an escape, but now it's a way of life. What was that motivation in starting martial arts?
I think my motivation started off with my good friend that's been helping me out throughout my career, and he's been a huge sponsor of me. His name is Jason McKay. He took me out on my first ever MMA fight in Ottawa, 2019. It was Donald Cerrone versus Al Quinta, and I remember sitting down. I was like first row. He got me a first row ticket. We went out, and then we flew out on a like a semi-private jet to the event. And then we got there, and then I remember sitting down, and ish, I just seen just a cage, two people fighting, which I see it every day in training, a ring, a match, jiu-jitsu match, whatever you call it. I've seen war. I'm a student of war. I've been through ever since I was born. I've been at war. I'm a student of war. So all I seen is just war. Everything outside of that cage, it was just noise. The people, the audience, the introduction, dun, 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 the walkout, the emotions. But at the end of the day, it's just war. It's just the same cage that you get to train, and it's just two humans. So I started seeing it, and at that time I was on Team Canada for kickboxing. So I have about 40 pro and amateur fights. So I'm seeing some of these fights, and my ego kicks in a little bit, and then I'm like, I could hang with some of these guys. I'm like, I could definitely kick some of these guys is like butt standing. But I'm like, whoa, whoa, whoa. But if it goes down to wrestling and jiu-jitsu, they definitely could. They're gonna beat me up, and they're not gonna beat me up because they're better than me. They're gonna beat me up because they invested more time in their craft than I did. They have more hours on their day belt than I did. At that time, I was 23 years old. I was still a 50-year apprentice. I was a plumber in the union. So I said, okay, let's translate. I'm watching the fight. This is all going through milliseconds in my head. So I'm like, okay, if I would start MMA and I'll start jiu-jitsu and wrestling from scratch. Let's say if you go to university college, for you to get a degree, you need at least what, 4 years minimum, right? If you do to get a basic foundation of your of thing, right? Just basic foundation, not an expert, but basic understanding, right? Good foundation. Okay, and then I'm like, maybe I'm not good with the college and whatever. Let's translate that to trades. I'm like, it takes me 7,000 hours, around 4 years, to get my journeyman license as apprentice. So I'm like, okay, if I could bank in 4 years into MMA by age of 27, 28, be a pro. If I could invest 4 years and not ask nothing from the sport, I could do it. And that was it. The next day I went home, found the gym. It was all the way in Niagara Falls. I was in Toronto. I started commuting. I would wake up every day at 5 a.m., be at work 6 a.m., chipping concrete, pouring pipe, cast iron, working with like 67-inch galvanized pipe. And then I would commute every day after work at 3 p.m. to Niagara Falls back. It was a 4 hour commute, and then I fell in love with the process. I had my first amateur fight, and then COVID hit, and then things were falling apart. And then I remember meeting Dominic Mazzotta. At that time, they call him the Honey Badger. He was the guy. He was the first guy I've ever met that was a celebrity, kind of. He was fighting for Bellator.
Hey, he's a celebrity to me.
I never met anybody that on TV fought, and in person. So I met him in my gym with my coach Evan Boris. He's my head coach, and he was training him as well. And I remember finding out about him, and then he's like, "Yeah, I fight in Bellator," and I was just like starstruck. I'm like, "Oh my god, like Bellator! Oh my goodness! Oh, I get that." And he's like, "Yeah, man, you should come to PA. Pennsylvania is number one in wrestling." And my coach kind of just made a joke with him. He's like, "No, I was there. I was better than you guys." Anyways, and then I went to visit Isaac in 2019. I went to Lower Burl, and then it was a big culture shock because as an immigrant, the only way you get to survive is if you live in the cities, right? Because that's where the infrastructure, the market, a little bit of government help. So I went from like a big city guy to a little small town in New Kensington. So I remember,
Small town, big heart. Small town, big
exactly.
heart.
So I remember pulling up to the place. I get into the factory and I see how small the gym is, and I'm like, what is this place? Like, look at this place. How do people even train here? Whatever, right? And then my coach like, hey, you got to get ready. Like, we're gonna go on. And then all of a sudden, I put my gear on. I see like group of 20 kids, and then another 10 come, and another 10 come, and there's like 40 kids in there, right? I swear to God, Ish, I'm like, there's no way. I'm convincing myself, saying there is no way we all gonna train together. Where is everybody gonna be rolling? There's no way. And then Isaac says, all right, guys, start running. All these 40 kids start running. And I'm like, what the fuck? Where are we gonna train? Da, da, da. I'm thinking a little my ego because I'm like this Canadian national kickboxer. Like, I need my own space and little things. And then we started training, and I remember getting my ass whooped, just hand fighting, not saying shh. I even got my hand whooped bad by this like grade 9. My ego just went. And then I fell in love with wrestling right there. And I was like, okay, this is the room I need to be. Like, this is where I need to be. And I went back to Canada, and then I worked for another 6 months, quit my job, and then I moved to Pennsylvania. But the hardest thing to chase in MMA is it was hard for me to leave that comfy paycheck every week I was getting $2,000 Canadian, leaving my family, selling my Mercedes C300 Benz, leaving home from Canada, Toronto. That's your hometown. Like, you grew up there.
You
So
started from the bottom, got a Mercedes.
I was working out, bro. I was working hard. I was hustling and things like that. So, bro, the hardest thing to chase MMA was to let everything go. To let everything go, and was to lose everything and to start back from zero. And I gained that motivation from my dad. And what you said earlier, like, I had to sit down and realize, like, okay, like, it's not what you have on you, it's what you have within you. That's what matters.
Dude, and where there's an Isaac, there's a way.
Yeah.
That gym, I did an episode with Isaac, and I wore my rash guard because I was like, it's on brand. We're at the Jiu Jitsu, we're at his gym. It's best I wear a rash guard. Well, then he had a private training coming up right after our episode, so we ended. He said, "Hey, you want to roll with us?" And I'm like, I wasn't planning on it, but can't say no. Long story short, I've told the story more times than I can count. I ended up puking, and he has it on video laughing. And I'm like, yeah, you did it. Like, dude, they're dogs there. They're just dogs.
Yeah.
They train hard, and Isaac is phenomenal, and he knows what he's doing.
Yeah.
And that actually was at that time. So if you look back when I had Isaac's episode, which was probably a year or two ago, he was telling me about you and your stories. Like, you got to get him on. I'm like, I would love connect me. I would love to. Like, I don't want to. Hey, and you look at it and dispose of it, but it's crazy how everything's full circle.
Mhm.
So you get to these fights and you see this, but I want to go back to what got you into just a gym in the first place. What got you into fighting in the first place?
What got me into the gym is I was the oldest in Belarus, and my uncle was a national boxing champion back in Afghanistan. So my mom was inspired by his older brother being like such a savage, because when they were little kids, my uncle would always, like, defend them, get into fights, and be the guy. Like, he was a guy, in the family and things like that. He was a protector. So obviously the school and incident outside, the bullying and stuff, and my mom I was a little chubby kid, a little unconfident, and then they just got me into the gym, and I went in there. I wasn't good. I wasn't the smartest, the brightest. I just loved being in there. I loved being in that environment. I wasn't the best kid, but I just loved being in that environment, being around world class champions, seeing them train, hanging out with them, going to fights. I just felt like I was living my life through them, even though my life wasn't that great. Like, I was going through a lot of hard times as a kid, anxiety, pressure, like a lot of things. But every time I'd go to the gym, all those problems would elevate. Some days I would just go to the gym and I would just sit down for 2-3 hours and I would just watch pro fighters. Like, uh, back in the days, I didn't know the legend that was around, but now it's like, when I look back at it, I was around savages, bro. These guys were like world class fighters. Some of them were like 15, 20 times world champion, pro titles, not amateur. Some of these guys had 300, 400 fights Muay Thai. Like, a few guys named Andre Kulibin, Dmitry Valent, Chingiz Alazov, Dmitry Shakuta. Like, these guys are all like more Eastern European, Belarusian savages. If you know, like, your history about Gracies and all that, like, that's how back
Yeah.
it goes back. It goes around like 2000s, starting early 2000s, and seeing those guys train, I just love being around them, because I just, like, some days I would just be there and I would just like daydream about me being them and seeing myself through them.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, my mind would go to crazy different places, and I would just sit down and I would think, like, that's me training, like, that's gonna be me in future. I already knew at such a young age what the high level is, what the expectations are, what the discipline is. but I knew I couldn't get there because I just didn't believe in myself. My confidence wasn't there. I was always capped. I was always told that I was not, not that good. So, but the imagination, the curiosity would always be there to be like, I would daydream, and I knew I was gonna be as good one day just like them, but I don't know how. I just believed. I just like believe. You know how you believe in Santa Claus as a kid? Like that's how it like. And then when you grow up,
Yeah.
I just like
Like,
that.
I don't know how, I don't know why, but gifts are going to be here in the
Exactly.
morning.
So all I knew is just one day I'm gonna be like these guys. I'm gonna live this, breathe this, eat this, and just do this full time because I just feel like I had it. But deep inside, my circumstances in life and how we had like lived, like it was the reality. It was a big perspective, right?
So was the gym one of the first places you kind of felt you got power, you got
Yeah,
control?
yeah, yeah,
Like,
definitely.
and you mentioned it was your escape route. It was like your
Yeah,
sanctuary. Um, some people use it as a workout, but one thing that I've tried to tell people is, man, get into a gym, and yeah, I lift weights too. I love that. I think that has its own perks too. But there's nothing like jiu-jitsu or MMA where you're trying to force another grown person to do something, and they both have like, you're hitting a wall every time. Like your best place to find perseverance and challenges and push yourself and see what you're made of is mixed martial arts. Someone's trying to knock you out or take your consciousness the entire time. You don't get to think about, man, I didn't pay this bill, I didn't get this done. Like, this is a place where you can go and see, hey, what are you made of? Are you going to quit? Are you going to push yourself? If you're tired, are you going to fight through that? Or are you going to take a round off? Like, it's one of the best places to see what you're made of. And having all the background that you have, you find a place where you get to willingly now challenge yourself. Because before that in life, the challenges were made for you and you just had to get through them.
well said.
Here, you get to choose.
Yeah, as I'm growing older now, there's a very beautiful thing that says, "How you do one thing is how you do everything." And as
Yes.
I always rolled and did a lot of these seminars with high level jiu-jitsu guys, and jiu-jitsu guys would always say, "Hey, jiu-jitsu is life. How you are, like how you are on the mats is how you are in life. Where you're lacking on the mats is where you're lacking in life also. Where you're lacking in life is what you will lack on the mats. It's all one, bro. Like it's all one. Like I'll give you a great example. One of my weaknesses that I'm working on right now too is organization. I'm lacking that on the mats. I could see that how I'm lacking that on in life, and sometimes like other things, personal things that I see that myself lacking in life, and sometimes when I'm going through on the mats. So when I go through life, when I things click, I'm like, oh snap! Like this is all one. It's how you do one thing is how you do
Yeah.
everything, bro. So it's beautiful. It just shows the true. It's you. It shows you, right? And it's like this. It's game of life. It's same thing. It's like a key to the key to winning this thing called game of life is infinite game. You got to keep playing, good or bad, good days, bad days. You got to. The sun is gonna wake up, rise up. You got to keep playing. Wins and losses, same thing on the mats. You're gonna win some, you're gonna lose some, but how are you gonna get better? You just got to keep playing the game and showing up. you know.
Yeah, I remember one of my biggest weaknesses was I would always take shortcuts my first year in jiu-jitsu, right? Like, pick a partner. I'd always pick someone my size or smaller, right? Or like when I needed a break, I'd switch to someone who I knew would go easier on me. And I was doing this intentionally, but then unintentionally, this was translating into my personal life, right? Like I'd have a meeting I didn't want to do and I'd push it off. Or I had laundry or dishes I had and I'd push it off. And it sounds silly, but when I was cutting corners in jiu-jitsu, I was also cutting corners in my personal life. And it wasn't until I was almost forced to, Mike Wilkins, I train at Stout. He's a guy, he's in tune with everything. He sees you doing that. He's like, oh, well, why don't you partner with so-and-so? And you're like, fuck. And the more that I was forced to do that, the more I started to do that on my own, right? I'd go in jiu-jitsu and I'm like, I need to be worked today. I keep slacking off in my personal life. I need to be worked. And I'd pick someone I knew was going to brush the floor with me. And then I'd do all right. I'm like, oh, okay. And then I'd do better and better and better. And then I started applying that and education, knowledge. What is knowledge? Knowledge is things we learn and apply. If we just take information and don't apply it, it's not really knowledge. It's just useless.
Mm-hmm.
So I started applying jiu-jitsu into my personal life and like, man, I have this tough conversation I need to have at work. I need to get it done. That's something you step into it. Kind of like the partner. Don't want to roll with this guy. He's huge on leg locks and I suck. But maybe I need my ankle rearranged today. So like intentionally picking the hard thing. So yeah, the what you do in the gym translates to what you do in life, and what you do in life translates to what you do in the gym. If you cut corners in one, you're going to cut corners in the other. You never see someone who's phenomenal in martial arts and they just cut every corner in their personal life.
Mm-hmm.
It's very rare anyway. So you end up becoming very high up in Muay Thai in Canada, if I'm not mistaken, right? I remember reading that. And then what stopped you from pursuing Muay Thai? I just want to take a second to shout out a few companies who've believed in me. These were one of our first official sponsors, so huge shout out. Today's episode is proudly sponsored by Carbo Jewelers, established in 1997 on the values of honesty and integrity. Whether you're searching for the perfect piece, need expert repair services, visit Carbo Jewelers in Newark's Ironbound District, where your jewelry is always in safe hands. This episode is also brought to you by Continental Jewelers, proudly serving Hudson County, New Jersey since 1964. Whether you're seeking a timeless piece or need expert repairs, they've got you covered. Visit Continental Jewelers, your trusted source for all things jewelry. You can find them on Instagram at Carbo Jewelers or online at carbojewelers.com. Lastly, big shout out to Carbo Trading. Besides coins, precious metals, and jewelry, if it could be traded and collected, he's probably got it. They can be found on Instagram at carbo.trading. You can find all of our sponsors out online on our sponsor page at therelentlessproject.com.
What stopped me, it was two phases. The first one was once I became number one in my province, Ontario, and then I didn't have a Canadian citizenship passport to travel because all the tournaments were in America. Like the most common famous ones are TBA. It happens in Iowa every year. All the people from all over North America go. IKF, it's in Florida, International Kickboxing Federation. That happens. WKA, it's World Kickboxing Association. That happens in New York, Delaware. I could go on. So all these best prestige tournaments that were happening in America, I couldn't take part. So I kind of just fell apart from the sport and I kind of broke my heart. So I just kind of went into the dark phase of my life, chilling in the hood with the guys, thinking I was a gangster, and giving away from the sport and doing things that I shouldn't be doing. And then once that chapter of my life came to like some bad cases scenario, and I seen my friends and environments, go to some bad. Get some bad outcomes, people getting arrested and things like that. And then I just, the sport saved my life. I had to turn back to the sports. I remember I hit like 187 pounds. I was like overweight and then just like depressed.
Well, hey, I'm 230.
No, but bro, I'm like 5'8", 5'7". Like, I was like, I was like 21 years old, bro. I went from like 155 to like 187. And then, I remember once I got my passport, that was just like a blessing. And then I went back to sport. I fought, lost, and then I went, kept fighting, lost again. Now I'm a second two fight losing streak, and then I fought again, and I lost. Now I'm on a 3-fight losing streak. And then there came a point where I said, "This is it. Like this is gonna be a do or die. It's either I'm gonna go for this and do it, or I'm just gonna be done with this." And I was so desperate, wanting to win so bad. Like I started to getting into meditation. I started to hire a nutritionist. I started to getting closer to my faith. I started to, working a lot and giving back to my coaches in the gym, teaching classes. I started to, I don't know what quinoa was. This is back in like 2014, 15, or 16, 15, 16. So I started to like really invest, go all in, like, with plus when I was working as a plumber full-time job. So I went all in, and then I kept fighting, and I got an opportunity to fight for Team Canada in China. So and then that was my first time ever reaching out to sponsors. I found out, damn, like people would actually support me. Like
Yeah, people will pay to watch you.
exactly. So I
Okay.
started making shirts, getting sponsors, and I finally made a decent living. And then I went to China, and then I remember this was my fourth fight going in. I remember fighting first round in China, no coach. I was just with the team coaches, like national team coaches, new place, nobody's there. I was like, didn't know how to cut weight properly, and it was just pretty tough. And then I just went in there. I remember it was a time zone difference. I didn't even know. I wasn't educated properly. I was just eating like a bunch of melatonin every night, and that was like messing me up throughout the day. It was hard living in China. It was my first time. Like the food is very oily, a lot of pork. So just eating like protein bars and protein shakes all day. And I remember going into the fight, pieced the guy apart first round. And I remember I was so shocked. I was like, that's when I seen my potential. I was like, holy, this is not Bobby, is it? I'm like, I just beat the shit out of this guy. Like this guy is like so good. Going to round two, I'm still like full of adrenaline, right? I'm going in there. Now the guy comes in heavy. It's a back and forth fight. He gets the best of me. I believe I won the round. So I'm up two rounds. In kickboxing, it's 10-9 automatically. But if someone gets like a stoppage where they count, you get an 8 automatically. So it's 10-8. So anyways, I'm 10-9. I'm 20-18. And then going into round three, I'm doing enough. My adrenaline comes down now, and then I'm like doing enough, and all of a sudden, the last 30 seconds, he hits me with my most favorite move, spinning back fist. Whoa, spins it, and then I get caught. I just fell, and then the referee picks me up, and then one, two, three. I'm like, yeah, I'm good. And I remember being dizzy. I remember the lights and everything, and then I got saved by the not saved by the bell, but I was just clinching him up. And then it came to a very close decision. It was supposed to be a draw, but since it was China, I they gave the fight to him. So now I'm on 4-fight losing streak, and that was the first time ever where I was so happy about the outcome. Not because I lost, but because I seen my potential. I seen what I was able to do, and I seen how much more I could go, bro. Like I was not happy because I lost, but I was happy that I like opened the curtain and I could see the endless potential of Bobby Murda, and that's when I'm like, I'm gonna take over the world. Like this is over. I remember I called my coach, and then I'm like, hey man, like I had him, I know I had him. I lost this round, but I promise you I'm gonna come back better and stronger. I'm gonna do this. And it was like the weirdest feeling I've ever got. I haven't ever got that ever in my life yet.
An awakening. You had an awakening.
Exactly. It was like a weird spiritual awakening. And then I remember right after that, I came back home, and then I had the opportunity to rematch this guy in Canada, and a few months later. And then I basically took the fight, trained, did the same regime, and then I doubled up. I started getting into ice baths and hot saunas and just going crazy. They're going crazy into it. And then I remember 2 weeks before the fight, I broke my thumb. And I remember my coach told me that like, oh, you're gonna cancel the fight, or you're gonna be a pussy, you're gonna cancel the fight. Like, oh, like you could fight.
Gaslit
Yeah,
you.
he's like, you lost one hand, but you got other seven limbs. And then I was like, now it's another adversity. Now I got one hand, and I'm not sure. I lost 4 times. I accepted his fight. Now posters are everywhere around the city. I'm the face of the poster. I sold 150 tickets. I outsold all the tickets. I made 5,000 as a sponsors, and this is it's a lot of stake on the line. And I felt the pressure, and I think if I wasn't intact with my faith, with my religion, having great mentors around me, I wouldn't have came up, and I still accept the fight. Even though I still accepted a fight, won, and then that was my breakthrough. That was the biggest breakthrough, the hump that I had over in my kickboxing career. And then I kept fighting, became number one in Canada, in Ontario. And then around 2019, that's when I switched over to MMA because there was no future, there was no money in Muay Thai or kickboxing, because there was no one championship around. Glory Kickboxing was there, and it was kind of dying out. So the only future that I seen in my career longevity wise is the UFC, because at that time Israel Adesanya was getting new to the UFC, so that was my uh, motivation. That was like Silva, Anderson Silva, Izzy were like my top two favorites, because I Silva was the goat because that's where I learned the finesse, the art, the game, the style. But Izzy brought me hope, because I looked at him and I said, hey, if he's a kickboxer and he did it, then I could do it too. There's a world for us kickboxers. How other wrestlers gain motivation from DC, Gray Manier, like other Khabib and a few other guys. So I gained motivation from seeing another high level kickboxer make it. So that's where I'm like, you know what? I will just shoot my shot and see where it takes me from there.
And were you still doing in the plumbers
Yeah,
union while
bro.
all this is happening?
Yeah, I was working every day, bro. I
So
was the most hardest
that's
working
wild.
guy. I started out in 2013. Started in 2013, around 14. I got into the union. It was the uh, United Association Union of steam fitters, plumbers, and welders. They're all over. Their union is in Pittsburgh too. It's called
Yeah.
UA local. Yeah, so
Yeah. I think
I was part of them, and
I think that's where Ricky's out of.
I'm grateful for them. They
So you're
sponsored
at
me for a few of my fights.
yeah, and they do that in Pittsburgh too.
Yeah,
They'll
so
sponsor like the guys who are fighting. It's a great union. So you're at the pinnacle of kickboxing. You have, you got this awakening, you got this breakthrough, and then you make the decision to move to Pennsylvania.
no, that was the hardest thing,
Is that
bro.
how?
Yeah.
Yeah, like walk us through that, because you say there's no future, but you have a future in plumbing. You have the notoriety of your martial arts career in Canada. You're up, you're high.
So I was
Now
living
you
life, bro.
you you make the decision to you. This is probably, and correct me if I'm wrong, the first time you willingly chose to restart. Every other time it's been chosen for you. Now you make the decision to uproot and restart again. Why?
I was leaving practice. My coach called me. He said he was in Pennsylvania. He said, "Hey kid," his name is Evan Boris, and then he said, "Hey kid, like you're 20 years old. You think you got time? Like you don't have enough time. In a blink of an eye, this life goes away. Just come to Pennsylvania. We'll get some MMA fights. Things are shut down in Canada. Their promotions are still running. Just come here. Let's have some fights. Let's develop, and then come back home." So I said, okay, whatever. Like, my coaches are like my father figures. Like I listen to them. If they tell me, if Isaac, Evan, or anyone of my circle tells me run through that wall, no questions, I'll run through it. Like I'll do it. So, anyways,
This wall? Okay.
exactly. So I just I listened to this thing. I came home the same night. I said, "Hey, mom, I'm gonna go to America," and she started bawling her eyes out. She's like, "Oh, what are you doing?" Like da, da, da. And I'm like, "Listen, I'll be back." And something inside of me told me that I won't be. Like something was telling me, my gut was telling me, you're lying. I was like, I'll be back. I'll be back. I booked my ticket and then I went to PA. And then I remember I got there. I already had experience because of the gym. And then, anyways, right beside the Mat Factory is that little room. So I opened the room and I remember mattresses on the floor. There's people in the room. There was me, my buddy Vinny Diaz. He's like a brother of mine. Willow Morton, that was our teammate from Canada. So it's all of us from Canada. And then our head coach, Evan Boris, they called it the Canadian house, that little Canadian house. So, and then we just had two bedrooms, a little washroom. There was no shower. We had to shower in the gym. There was no kitchen. There was like a two burners. We'll barely buy food. We'll go sheets, or if we had to go cook, we had to go upstairs to the other apartment. Back then, Cody Gamble used to live there, so we used to go cook in his kitchen.
Shout out Cody Gamble.
Shout out to Cody Gamble.
He's the one who made me throw
Oh
up.
yeah, and then I stayed there, and then I just started training and fell in love with the process. It was my first time. I remember working plumbing, chipping concrete one day, and making this prayer and saying, God, just give me a chance. Give me a chance to do this full time for just 1 year. and let me see how far I could go, because I could go to places. I just help me, like, let me get out of this. Let me just do this full time. And my wish came to true. Sometimes there's a saying that says never. They say sometimes you wish for things that you wouldn't want, or like, you know what I mean. Sometimes we want things and we wish for things, but when we get it, we're like, oh boy, like this is not what I expected, right?
Yeah. No,
So
and it makes you appreciate it,
yeah,
because you're like, I prayed for this at one point.
and then I was just there training. I remember I fought my first fight for 2 for 7, and then I fought another fight, and then after a while, my other teammates fought as well, and then one of my teammates, Vinny, had to leave to Canada, and then Willow was there with me, and then she left to Canada, and then it was just me and my coach. And then I turned around to Isaac, and then Isaac's like, "Listen, like, what do you want to do? Like, what are your goals?" And I'm like, "Bro, I want to be like Dom, like, you know, because my whole idea of meeting Isaac, it was reverse engineering Dominic Mazzota, seeing his career and saying, okay, where has he trained? Who took him here? How did he get here? How is he so good at standing on the ground and this? Where's his coach?" So I kind of just like reverse engineered him, and I talked to Isaac, and Isaac said, "Listen, like, you got the skills, you got the potential, but I need like minimum 2 years for you to stay here. And I'll promise I'll like give everything, and I'll like, you'll be there, you'll be here." And then without hesitation, it was just something with Isaac's spirit, his leadership, his persona, his like morals, principles that he lives by, and he's just one of those leaders that he would never tell you to do something that he wouldn't do it himself, you know. And that's like
Or hasn't already done.
exactly. So I just listened to him, and then my coach Evan had to leave home too, and then I was just alone in that room. I had a bed. There was just two beds attached, like two mattresses on top of each other. It wasn't that bad, but then I had to sleep in that room for like 2 3 years. No TV, and just I got a laptop that my mom bought me.
2 years, Mad Factory, no calls.
Yeah, 2 3 years. Send that factory, forget, you know.
Send Mad Factory,
And
forget.
then I fell in love with the process there. I just kept getting better and better. My wrestling got better. My jiu-jitsu was getting better. I fell in love with the process, and I fell in love with the hero version of myself. Like what would Bobby would look like next year. And then I'll get to that next year. I'm like, oh my God, I'm better here, here, here. But my superhero would always run away from me. And then I would always have to go and chase it. And by the next year, 2 3 years, when I would chase it, and be like, who's the superhero now? And be like, I think it's Bobby that's going to be in the UFC in the next 2 3 years. And then they would just constantly, the bar would constantly go, and I would constantly chase it. And then I just fell in love in the process there. It was just hard times, you know. I didn't work. There were times where I would like stretch $10 of my money and go to Sheets, just eat a meal a day. I didn't have a car in Lower Borough. There's no transportation, so I would like walk to Giant Eagle, walk with groceries. Same, it would give me deja vu's when I was a little kid in Russia. I'd walk with a grocery, and then I shower at the gym here and there. Sometimes I didn't have clothes. I would get donated stuff by people from the gym. Isaac would help me, but Isaac, like, he was like a father figure to me. You know, he literally kind of like adopted me as his own like family. Like, he always made sure I had a little job. I had money, enough money in my pocket. He made sure like I had clothes, was well fed. He always took time out of his own schedule before or after work to come train me. Uh, like, he even got me like a little beater for a time being to travel and commute, and that was huge, you know. And I didn't have mom, dad, and there was at one point after 6 months of with the Canadian citizenship, you can only stay for 6 months with your passport. So I had to get a visa, and then Isaac spent like $6,000 for my visa application for me just to stay for those 3 years, you know. And there's this beautiful quote. It says, "Your biggest supporter is going to be a stranger, someone that doesn't know you, and your biggest hater is going to be somebody that's within your close circle that will be hating on you." And dude, like, I just met this random guy, Isaac, and this guy, it was like God kind of sent me. My mom, God sent me over there, but my mom's prayers had this angel, so-called Isaac, really protect and stay over me and help me out. And him and his beautiful wife Laura, they like took me as one of theirs, and everyone at the factory, Matt Schaefer, Chris Dempsey, Chris Como. The list can go on, dude. Like the list can go on, but these guys all embrace me. And it says it takes a village to raise a kid. You know, maybe not a village, but many villages. And I feel like that
Yeah.
phase of me being an PA at the Math Factory was like one of the breakthroughs that I needed in my career, not just physically, but mentally, spiritually. And, and he taught me a lot, man. He taught me a lot sitting inside those empty walls. Sometimes I had to like go for walks, knock on the walls and be like, hey, like, is anybody there? Like, I had to like, bro, I was going crazy. Like, I just didn't know. And that's where my mind started racing too much. I started getting into a lot of books, starting reading a lot of self-improvement books, starting to listen to podcasts, started to meditate, start writing journal, start writing goals. Isaac has this little black book. If you go to the Math Factory every year, he makes you write goals for the year, and you had to like go over them. So I started to, surround myself around great people and great mentors like Simon Arias, Greg Rudolph. You know, there's
Small world.
bro, there's a lot of like these savages, and a lot of these guys that I would feed off and will look up to. A lot of these gentlemen that I inspired to be like, to see them succeed in life and everywhere else. And then just it was a good phase of my transformation, and I feel like if I didn't go through that, I wouldn't be who I am today. So very grateful for that chapter of my life.
Yeah, I was gonna say, but you hit it, man. No job, no parents. You're sleeping. You're sleeping at the gym. What was the conversation in your head? Because you were alone for a lot, right? Like, what was the conversation you were having with yourself that just kept you going, right? Because Isaac doing what he did, Greg, you mentioned a bunch of these people who poured into you. That's external, right? There still needs to be something inside of you that goes along with that, accepts that, and does something with it. What was that conversation like with yourself that kept you pushing?
I was reading a book about Dave Goggins' Can't Hurt Me when I was going through those dark times. And when I read that book, I felt like I was reading my own biography. At the beginning when he was going through his life. I haven't really got too personal about my childhood. There are some things that I still hold on here that I haven't told anyone there. But whoever read that book of his childhood and all the abuse and other things like that, I've been through things like that. I don't want to get in too much depth because I'll tear up about it. But that little
I respect that.
everybody has that dark side of them. If you read the book called Relentless by Tim Grove, and everybody has that dark side of them that drives them. And I feel like my side is so dark. I haven't really shared it with everyone around the world or anyone else. Maybe like one person will never know, but or few. But yes, that dark side still drives me. But what I'm trying to say when I read that Can't Hurt Me book at the beginning phases, he has the analogy of having that cookie jar, where if you're going through some problems in life, you go back to your cookie jar, meaning you go back to your life, and then you pull out these old experiences, traumas that you've been to, and you compare that to your life. For example, if I'm having some problems right now, I could go back to my cookie jar and be like, hey, listen, like starting all over was no problem. I've been to Belarus, I've been to Afghanistan, I've been to Russia, I've been to Canada, everywhere, wherever we went, it doesn't matter how we were. We always learned a new language. Like we're adaptable. You can put me anywhere around the world, no matter where. I always bounce back. Look at my dad. He's my superhero. Anywhere we went, my dad, no matter what we had or not, whether he knew the language or he didn't, he always rose above and he always like believed that he could make it. So if my dad could make it, if my dad could take me to all these different countries and still come on top and still build this life, this is no problem. Me living in Pennsylvania, this is not the real pressure. The real pressure is me living in Afghanistan, and if I didn't leave there, then you know what I mean. The real pressure is a kid in Afghanistan doesn't lost his dad, mom, and he can't even provide for his family. He has to go out there clean someone's shoes to make a living. That's real pressure. So like me going back, and a lot of this happened me journaling every day. I would wake up, I would just talk to myself and I'll write 3 4 pages about, hey, Today's a beautiful day. It's 10:30 in the morning. The sun's shining. Some days I would have a great mood. Some days I'll be like, I'm feeling like shit today. I don't even want to train. My body's sore. This, that. But you know what? I'm grateful. I used to pray for times like this. I remember when I was a plumber, I would die to be in this moment right now to do what I do. I'm like, at the end of the day, like, it doesn't matter what I do, I do what I love, and that's all that matters, you know. And I'm grateful that I have a roof over my head. I have Coach Isaac. I have clothes. I have a meal over in my fridge. This is all I need because this is what I asked for. I prayed for times like this, and this is what I have it. And then I'll go through a little gratitude and be like, hey, like, I will be a world champion. Nobody can stop me. Like, all these sacrifices, all these little obstacles, this is all gonna pay off. Look at the greats. Like, I'll just talk to myself. I was like hypnotize myself and talk to myself. And I have books, journals of all the receipts, stacks of paper. Because if I go through any hard problems, good and bad, now I pull over those receipts and I read those receipts, and that shows me that I am who I said I wanted to be and who I am to be. And I read those things. So I started journaling a lot, started to meditate a lot, and then I just use my own past experience trauma to motivate any circumstance that I went, and to show that, like, I've been there, done that. You know what I mean? Kind of like looking over
Yeah.
my life, past experiences, but a lot of journaling, meditation, reading, a lot of self development, because you know it's your body's your temple, and it's all in here, man. It's as I get higher and higher in this game, it's all here, you know, because the body could do whatever you could tell it to do, but it's the mind that's gonna stop you.
Your body will quit, or your mind will quit before your body does.
Hmm.
You know, so that if you push your mind, you push your body. You
Yeah.
know, the mind's a beautiful thing, and I do want to say I do appreciate you sharing a lot of your story here, man. I can't imagine how hard it is to as you're getting asked these questions, to go back, relive it all. So I do appreciate you sharing the things you do share. Um, and I think anyone listening can dive into this and pull from it for their own lives, man. Like, just hearing you talk, hearing your mindset about it all. You talk about going through a wall. I want to go through a wall right now for no reason, just
At
like because I
the end of
can.
the day, it's
Um,
like life, and the only thing we live in this, like, we come in with nothing, we leave with nothing, you know. And the
yeah,
only thing that we truly own, I've been saying this with every story, every podcast, is the only thing we truly own in this world is moments and memories. This is it. Like, you don't own nothing. This water bottle, this phone that I say this is mine, it's not my phone. It is mine for time being, for the experience, but I'm renting this. The moment I die, I'm gone. They're gonna take this phone away from me. So it's like,
yeah.
I'm renting. I'm here for experience. So I'm out here trying to build so much moments and leave so much memories behind, because that's what I own. So if I could just inspire someone with my story, and if I could shine some light, if I could motivate another soul, man, that's a win for me. You know, and for me, it was just to inspire. Biggest thing it is to inspire everyone around the world, but also inspire people from back home. You know, because they're the real soldiers going through it to this day, through war and through everything. And I have it easy. Even now, I might not be where I want to be. I might have some circumstances and things like that, but I'm grateful for every moment of it, to be here and not to be in war and things like that. So, you know, try to not take things for granted, you know?
Yeah, they're all gifts, man. Like you were saying, you're writing your diary and you're in Pennsylvania, you're in the gym, you wanted this. That's a gift. For someone else, it may not be, but for you in that moment, that's a gift. You wanted that, you got it. It's just another phase you got to go through in life to get to where you want to be.
Hmm.
I always call it being in the mix, right? Because when you're at the top and you make it, and like, we look at our favorite fighter, favorite actor, whatever it is, favorite musician, you hear their story, and you're like, man, they went through that. In that moment that they were going through it, you know, they probably didn't want to be there. But when you make it to the other side and you look back, you realize I needed to go through that to be the man I am
Hmm.
today. I
Yeah.
needed to go through that to be the fighter I am today. So it's easy after to look back and be like, I'm grateful that that happened to me, because look where I'm at now. But
Yeah.
when we're in those moments, it's hard to oh man, why am I here? What does this mean? Like, how do I get out of this? It's very easy. But if you, I spoke on this on my last episode. You go watch a movie, right? You arrive late. You watch the last 10 minutes of the movie. You see the happy ending. You see the guy gets the girl or the hero wins. You know the outcome. And now you stay for the rest of the movie. You stay, it starts all over and you're watching it. And you're watching that main character go through these things, but you already know the outcome because you saw it.
Mm.
You look at that differently. You're like, wow, I understand why he's going through this because that's how he gets here. Or I understand, oh man, he may look like he's losing right now in this battle, but I know he wins. I know he gets the kingdom. Like it's easy when you see the outcome, but if you just envision that when you're going through it, like I'm going to be good. You start to look at these moments, these hard times as lessons and little gifts because they're going to teach you and mold you and make you into the person you eventually will become.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that's what's happened with you. And to kind of pivot a little bit, Bobby Murda, where'd that come from? Because I think that encompasses a lot of your life story, but where's the name Bobby Murda come from?
Bobby, basically, the first when I first came to Canada, I was a very insecure kid, and that's when like the Facebook started coming on in 08, 09. And I just like didn't want to put my real name out there in the public, so I just wanted to be cool and have like a nickname, and my name just didn't sound right, and I was just like, when I always was a kid or even growing up as a teenager, I don't know why. When I was in like grade 4, they asked me in class, "What do you want to be?" I said, I'm going to be a president." And then what I mean by that is just I always knew I was going to be someone successful and be great, but I don't know how. I always knew that had a feeling. So, anyways, I just wanted to be like, how these rappers have a nickname, like whatever. So I just wanted to be cool. Like I knew I was going to blow up one day or going to be a good fighter. So I just put Facebook Bobby, and then I went to school, start following people, and the next thing you know, I'm walking home, and someone's like, "Yo, Bobby." It's like, "Yo, Bobby." I'm just like, someone's calling. Yo, Bobby, bro. I turn around, it's like, "Yo, what's up?" I was like, "Oh shit, I'm Bobby now." All right, cool. Like,
I'm Bobby.
And then after a while, fast forward to after when I lived in like community housing area neighborhood, and I was doing a lot of things that I shouldn't be doing, and that name Bobby saved my life because I got into things against the law and things like that, and a few friends got caught, whatever. And then oh, the other kid's named Bobby. Like, Bobby who? And they'll look it up. There's no Bobby. So I was like, you know what I mean? It was just like a little way. I just very was insecure. It goes back to us being a child, having anxiety, not trusting people. And I just didn't want someone to know who I really was or my real name or get to know me because I was always afraid. I just had that weird anxiety. Still do to this day, but I could battle with my demons way better. But I just had that. And then
you're more equipped.
Yeah, and then the murder came from my coach. When I got my first amateur MMA knockout, my first amateur fight was in the ring, and I killed the guy. And I just like dropped him with that one punch, and then he's like, "Oh," he's like, he's like, "Oh my goodness, you murdered that guy." He's like, he's like, "There's no more Bobby. There needs to be Bobby Schmurda." And then I was like, and I'm like, "Oh, we can't use that because the rapper Bobby Schmurda."
Yeah.
And then it's like, "Okay, we're gonna
copyright
exactly." And then we're gonna name it Bobby Murder. And then I was just like, "Oh, that sounds sick. I think I like that." He's like, and he's like, "Every time you get in the cage, you're the murder man. It's like I see this different side of you that like I don't see in training." And then it was first Bobby, and then it just went Bobby Murder. And then recently, I think one of my friends from Canada, his name is Darcy. He heard the Bobby Murder, and he's like, "Let's call this more like a little conservative way and say it Robert Homicide." And then I started laughing.
Bobby Murda. We'll go Bobby Murda. Robert Homicide.
Bobby Murda is the
that's
way.
funny. No, I thought your name was Bobby for the longest until you submitted the.
Bro, it's funny. I've been living in Canada for a whole while. Everyone kind of, I don't know, the Bobby kind of spread. Everybody calls me. Sometimes even my friends come over. My mom already knows. My mom sometimes calls Bobby or says something, and it's just funny. I don't know, but every time someone that understands the real meaning of my name, it's an Arabic name. It's called Ferdaws, and the name comes from The Arabic Latin dictionary, it's called Jannat al Ferdaws, means the highest gate of heaven in Islam. So the highest gate of heaven, it's called Jannat al Firdaus, like Firdaus. So when I have like someone that's a little bit more religious, when they get to know my name, and they're like, brother, what a beautiful name. Like why Bobby?
use it.
but I always tell people that the thing is that I'm Ferdaus Nayimi outside the cage, you know. But when I step inside the cage, it's that Bobby Murda, it's that dark version of me that I don't wish on anybody, and I don't like open it up unless I have to in that moment, because it's all that of me is that dark version of me. So I always have to control that murder man, the Bobby Murda in me outside, and just be, be normal, be Ferdaus Naimi.
Be Ferdaws.
Yeah, exactly,
Be Ferdaws for
Ferdaus.
family
But
and
then
friends.
once I get into that cage, I turn that switch. That's when that Bobby Murda mode kicks in, and that's when I, that dark version of me that I don't get it
Well,
out
don't
anywhere
fight me,
else.
because the first thing I'm going to say is it Ferdaws or is it Bobby Murda?
It's whatever you say, bro.
I need Ferdaws in the cage today. I need Ferdaws in the cage today.
We'll be good, bro. No violence today.
You've gone from a refugee fleeing on foot to an undefeated pro fighter, chasing essentially the major leagues. To the listener now, stuck in their quote unquote plumbing job, their small apartment, their mix, what's one message you have for them regarding refusing to settle?
I think sometimes we don't understand our own limitless potential until we go for it. And my biggest advice is whether you do plumbing or whatever you do, always chase what you love, because that's what you truly would want. Every time through my whole life testimony, when I was working, going through this, do this, I always was intact with the sport, and I always loved, no matter where I went, that was just a part of me. And one day or not, eventually, as I got older, I had to accept that, and I had to just let it take over my life. And I think the biggest thing for me is anything you do, always chase what you love, because love always goes over anything else. And my biggest advice is just follow your heart. And when we make a choice, I read this from a book. I can't recall it, but anytime we make a choice, there's two decisions that come. One decision comes from your brain. It's natural. It's survival, right? We humans, the species, always want to survive because death is guaranteed. We always want to play comfortable, safe. So our brain always gives us that survival safe mode. And then there's a second choice that comes in anytime we make a decision, that comes from your gut, aka your heart. So anytime you get to make a decision, listen to your heart, follow your gut. And I'm not saying don't listen to your brain, but just listen to your heart and follow your gut. Whatever you want, go for it, because like there's nothing out there that you can't do. Like don't let someone out there, a thing or a person or a situation tell you that what you can and what you can't do. Like chase your dreams and do what you love, and that's my biggest message is always listen to your heart and follow your gut of whatever you want to do, because like who are we, to tell others what they're capable and what they're not, right? So and the other thing is, if you are really stuck in that situation, just don't be afraid to restart. Like don't be afraid to restart from zero and get back to where you're gonna go. Like it's the same thing. If we want to go up a Mount Everest, there's going to be a time where we're going to go halfway throughout the mountain and then realize that like shit, we might have to go back down, find a new route and go up. Why would I stay there and try to climb the mountain and and put all this unnecessary pressure? So that's one thing that I've learned is it's okay to restart and chase, to go from nothing back to something, because it's not what you have on you, it's what you have within you that matters the most, right?
Oh, that's good advice. To pivot to kind of piggyback on that, our brain, like you said, is wired for survival.
It is.
So it may not be giving you the best decision right now. If you have something in your gut, in your heart, in your soul, and your brain's like, I don't know, like fear is just an indicator. And that's the older I get, the more I realize, the more I push myself is fear is just an indicator. Hey, pay attention to this, right? And then now we listen to our mind, our heart and soul, and we make this decision of, is this fear rational? What is this fear telling me? Starting a new business. If I pursue this business and fail, I'm still here. I'm alive. My bills are paid. That didn't go through. That's fine. But I can also make it and change my life forever.
Mm-hmm.
Weigh the outcome. Make that decision for anything you're trying to do, whether you're starting a new business, making the decision to become a fighter. If you've been training, you're like, man, something's pulling me to this. My brain's like, oh, don't do it. You may get hurt. What's the fire in you telling you? Like, you can get hurt walking out of the gym and get hit by a car.
It's what
So
I was listening to a podcast. Sorry to interrupt you. It was some this gentleman. He's an entrepreneur. His name is Naval. I forgot his last name. It's this brown guy. He was speaking. He says, find something that you're so passionate about that feels like play to you, but work to others. This podcast feels like play to you. But to me, bro, the setup, the mic, this, that, the scheduling, bro, that's a lot of work. Put me in the gym.
Oh, yeah, I love it.
But you know what I'm saying?
Put me in the gym.
But you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when I'm in the gym, it's like that kid of me comes in. The smell of the gloves, the bounce of the rope, the training, the sweat. It feels like play to me, but work like to others. So you always have to listen to your heart and find what feels like play to you and do it.
I'm gonna have to use that.
You know,
that was good.
I learned that from the podcast. I've listened to Naval, and he goes back to saying, just learning something to always be 1% better every day. We're not going to be the smartest or the wisest. We always could learn. So that's my other big advice is like, bro, the reason why I say that the reason why it came up to my mind is because I've seen your evolution in your journey in your podcast. I remember when you uploaded your first few videos. But that passion, that drive of yours, bro, the persona, that charisma, the energy you bring, bro, like you can't fake that. You can't buy that. That's passion.
I appreciate that.
That's passion.
I love this shit, man. I do.
That's what I'm saying. But look, even on top of that, you have a full-time job. You serve, like you take care. You're man of the community. You throw these events. You're out there helping other people out silently. God knows who, your friends, your people in your community, and your provider to your family, to others. And you do this on top of that, then you still have time. You know what I mean? So it's like, that's why it kind of came into my mind. This weird randomly thing is just like, follow your heart and like find what's played like to you, and that's why I do this thing. Cause it just feels like play to me. And and some people say, "Oh, how can you do this?" But I love it, like how you do,
it's
man.
Fun.
Yeah,
it's fun.
Yeah,
I appreciate that. Those are kind words, man. You're 6-0. What's your vision for the next 2 years? When we look back at this podcast, you've been a man. You've talked about it here that you kind of envision the future, and then you get there, and then you look back, and then you reassess, and then you re-envision the future, and then you push yourself to get there. What will we be celebrating 2 years from now?
2 years from now, we're going to be looking back at this podcast and seeing that hero version of me that I envision myself as in right now within 2 years. And once I get there, I'm going to be in the big leagues, whether it's just going to be the UFC or the other big organization. And I'm going to be sitting back, looking back and saying, damn, look how far I came and look how far I have to go to get that world title. And then I'm going to be on the quest of getting the world title. So for next year, for now, my goal is to compete one more time in January, February, and then get a shot at Contender Series or get a last minute replacement into the UFC. And I have some opportunities. I know PFL is going to be coming to Pittsburgh. They're going to be throwing some shows in Chicago, so that offer is still on the negotiations for me. But I'm just going to aim for the moon, shoot for the stars, bro. I'm going to hit it because next year is going to be a very, very big pivotal point for my career. I'm going to be chasing the big leagues, and I know I'm gonna get there. But it's just taking it one fight at a time, just one fight at a time, and not being outcome driven, but being process driven. Not saying I'm gonna get this to get this. Nah, I'm gonna take it one fight at a time, and I'm gonna let God's plan take the wheel.
Unfold.
Because sometimes I
Yeah.
might want something, and but that's not what he wants from me. And I heard this beautiful theory from someone. It says it's more of a spiritual thing if you believe in your faith in God, things like that. He said the moment when you're born, your testimony, your life, your story was written. Like God already knows what He has for you the moment you're born. He kind of wrote everything down. So he said that, like, it's same as if, like, imagine if a director made it a movie, like from A to Z, like he made it a movie, and you are the actor within the movie. The script is already made, the play, the scenes, the ending, the climax is already made. So what you have to do is just play the movie and let the movie be played and be the main character. Who are you to tell the director, aka God, on that you want this scene to be changed? Do you want this to be like this? You gonna be the director, where you just have to be the main character and let the movie be played. Let it play. He already has
Yeah, because it's
everything
written
written
for
for
you.
you. So who am I to tell
Yeah.
the director, aka God, to say no? I don't want this. I think this is. The story has already been written. I cannot change it. I'm just the character in the movie that has to just let the movie play, and the good or bad, and just let it keep rolling until the end. You know what I mean? So that's my little
I like
philosophy.
that.
Just let the movie play. Don't change anything, but just let it play, good
No,
or
I like
bad.
that a lot.
Good or bad. I'm grateful for it, and what's next? Like let's see what's next.
Yeah, what else is written for me? That's good.
Exactly.
All right, we're entering the relentless rapid round. That's something I've started doing
Oh,
recently.
sick.
So I'm going to ask you a series, 9 questions, fast paced, no
Mhm.
hesitation, just first
Cool.
thing that pops to your
Let's
mind.
go.
All right, you ready?
Yeah.
You think so?
Let's go.
All right. If you could describe your fighting style in just one word, what would it be?
Snake charm.
Okay. What is the biggest lie people tell themselves about what it takes to be successful?
Say that again one more time. The question.
What is the biggest lie people tell themselves about what it takes to be successful?
I need to get in shape, or I need to get in shape before I do something, or I need to get in like a best
Yeah, I need to
shape.
do this before I can
Yeah.
start that. Oh, that's a good one. You've lived the 9 to 5 life as a plumber and the 24/7 life as a fighter. What is the one thing you miss about a normal life?
The grind, the discipline.
You still got that as a fighter,
Yeah.
but that's a good one. What is the physical exercise that you absolutely hate, but you do it anyway because it works?
Mobility.
Dude, that's something I need to get into myself.
Ah,
That's a good one. That's personal for me. What scares you more? The fear of losing in front of a crowd or the fear of going back to where you started?
back to where I started.
You've lived in 5 different countries. What is the universal language that everyone understands regardless of where they're from?
Humanity.
What is the best piece of advice a coach has ever screamed at you in the middle of a fight?
That's a hard one.
That's the one that's don't get up.
When I took someone down, and then my Isaac yelled out, "I told you could take him down. This is your world."
Yeah, affirmations is good. What is the biggest weakness you had to kill inside of yourself to become a pro?
Confidence, my mentality, believing in myself.
Last question. Believe in yourself. What last question? Complete the sentence. I will stop fighting when.
I will stop fighting when I can't do it anymore.
physically, mentally?
When I lose the when I lose the juice and the hunger of wanting to be there, the fire.
It's good, bro. Well, I appreciate you for coming on, man. I know sharing a lot of these stories are tough. One thing I do want to do is, where can people follow you online if they want to follow your fight journey, your personal journey, or they want to learn more about Bobby Murda? Where can people follow you online?
Yeah, I have a Instagram. It's Bobby underscore Murda 786. My Facebook is with my real government name, Ferdaws Nayimi. Those are the two main platforms that I have. There are some YouTube series promos. I use like embedded videos. If you just put my name Ferdaws Nayimi or Bobby Murda MMA, you'll find some clips. I usually like to put a lot of behind the scene footages to just let it, average person to relate, to see the journey, what it's like fighting, and like seeing someone before the fight, in between weight cuts, after the fights, the struggles, the ups and downs. So yeah, the YouTube, and it's on my friend's channel. It's called the Pittsburgh Flyover. My buddy Anthony, yeah. So it's on his page. I have a lot
Anthony
of.
Brandt? Yeah, dude,
That's
that's
my
my
guy.
homie,
Yeah, yeah,
bro.
yeah. So
This small
we've been
world.
shooting a
We're
lot
all
of my
connected.
amateur videos to professional to this day. So we have like catalog. So I have a lot of great little documentary series in mind. When I will make it, is when we're gonna run this all back and have this footage saved.
Dude, that's dope. Shout out Anthony,
Yeah,
man.
man.
He's a good
Pittsburgh
dude.
flyover.
It, yeah, Pittsburgh flyover. Amazing at what he does.
Yeah, man.
Um, you've shared a lot of your story, a lot of kind of your mindset and what drives you. If you can tell the listener one thing that they can take away from your story today, one mindset to carry into their week, what do you want that to be?
Um, just keep showing up every day. Life is a infinite game. The only time you lose this game is when you're gonna die. So just wins and losses, keep playing the game, keep showing up, keep waking up, because you win some, you lose some. You're gonna have to wake up the next day, and it's gonna be the same game. So believe in yourself, trust yourself, and just send it, like risk it, do whatever you want, because this life's too short. In about 100 years or 150 years, when you pass away, no one's gonna remember you, no one's gonna care what you did. Everything's gonna be forgotten, and then there's gonna be somebody else out there. So just do what you love and just send it. Who cares? Like, go for it, like do what you love, and find what feels like play to you and like work to others, and I'm sure you will live 100 years more and longer doing what you love.
Dude, I appreciate that. And I could just tell the listeners and viewers this: if he can make it happen with nothing but a backpack and a dream, our excuses for skipping the gym or not starting that business aren't too big,
No, bro.
right? Like it doesn't. It's very small when you compare it to you made it happen with nothing. We especially here in the U.S. we have been blessed with a lot. So do with what you can with what you got.
Exactly.
I appreciate
Well
you.
said, bro.
I appreciate you for coming on. Definitely looking forward to talking with you again
For
as you
sure, man.
continue to just grow and push, man. This is the one with Bobby Murda. I'm Ish with the Relentless Project. If this story has moved you, follow us online, follow him online, follow his story, follow the Relentless Project. We are Relentless, PRJCT, on Instagram, YouTube, Facebook, X. That's a big thing. So I do appreciate you for coming on the show. I'm Ish Lopez. This is the Relentless Project. See you next time. Stay relentless. Later.